welcome to another segment of Veterans Views of Connecticut. Today I have Hank Bolden, who is with us to talk about the atomic veteran, as I like to put it. He basically was involved with the automatic atomic testing that took place out in the Midwest or Nevada. So, welcome, Hank.
My pleasure, Gabe.
I've had you on another show too, which was very informative.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to ask you, what basically happened?
Well, what happened is I'm saying we because it wasn't just me, it was a unit of men that was exposed to atomic radiation from the blast of an atomic bomb, unknowingly exposed to that, so, and it was an atomic testing that the government did in search of developing atomic weaponry in case of a nuclear war. So they needed to get actual good test results to see how this thing was progressing and how good it would be in a nuclear war with Russia.
Right. Well, it's quite a story that you were telling me, but you're actually one of the last survivors of one of those tests, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Which happened back in
February 18th, 1955.
Okay, I see. And what happened basically? They just showed up in your barracks one day and said, "You're going, you've been chosen," or how did it work? What happened?
Well, there's a terminology that the government used called TDY, which means temporary duty, from one unit to another unit, one place to another place. And when they tell you that you're going to TDY, you don't think nothing of it. You're going to another place, going to have fun at another place. So the reason for the TDY in this particular instance, they didn't tell you why or what it was for. So you just take it for what it stands for. TDY, temporary duty, someplace else. Have fun.
It was very secretive.
Very secretive.
So basically, tell me just a little bit about what happened. Did they put you in trucks? They put you in a plane? Did you take you somewhere? Just a real quick little synopsis.
They put you in a truck to take you to a little airfield, to a little, I think it was a two-prop plane. Maybe
a DC-9 or something?
I really don't know, but yeah. It was a small plane.
Oh, okay.
A small plane, and I remember that it was propeller driven. I don't know whether we even had jets then.
I think we did.
Yeah.
Sabres, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. But we were actually flown from my permanent station, which was in Malibu Beach, of all places, of all the Hollywood actors and actresses that lived at, to flown from there to Desert Rock, Nevada. And still not knowing why we were being flown to Desert Rock, Nevada, it was of no concern. It didn't faze me one bit why I was being flown there, because we had no inkling about what it was for.
Right. So how was the flight?
Rough.
Was it rough?
The flight was rough. And I say that because the plane that I was in, I was told that it dropped like 800 feet in the air pocket. No one actually measured that, but I was told it dropped 800 feet in the air pocket. And I clearly remember that because at this time I was up and walking down the little aisle in the plane, probably was going to the bathroom, and at the same time the Army had given us all a little brown bag with a sandwich and a little carton of milk. The sandwich was a tuna fish sandwich. I've always been told that tuna fish and milk don't really mix well. And so while I was walking, that's when the plane dropped. And as the plane dropped, up came.
Yes.
So.
Oh my gosh. So what happened when you got to the place that you know, the TDY that was the ending
Well,
part?
we were already told to stand outside in formation, outside of an area where they were putting the soldiers together to assign you to your barracks that you were going to stay in, you know, for the duration of the test. And I'm still not knowing why we were told to do this. So when we got there, we were assigned places to stay, and just wait to see what was happening. So I don't know.
Well, I wanted to show the first video, which does have audio in it, of what they wanted to tell the troops and what, from their standpoint.
You're saying what they wanted to tell the troops?
Yes.
They didn't want to tell the troops anything.
Well, I know, and it's kind of it's like a documentary type thing. So I wanted to show you it and see what you thought of it, and we'll just go from there.
Okay.
You are here to participate in an atomic maneuver.
3, 2, 1, fire.
It was the biggest damn set of explosions I ever saw.
When you feel the heat blast from it, it's so bright you actually see your bones in your hands.
No protective gear whatsoever. Your natural instincts would say, run away. But that's not what we were told to do.
I just wanted to show you that because you are an atomic vet.
Absolutely.
And was there anything, did anybody explain to you anything before they told you to, I guess you must have been in foxholes or?
In a foxhole, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could tell me.
Well, in the trench, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The foxhole would be like an individual unit, but it was a trench with several soldiers lined up, you know.
Now, when, of course, you were in that trench, they didn't give you any protective gear, no goggles, no anything.
No, nothing. I had a helmet, but no goggles, nothing other than that, yeah.
And did they tell you to, you know, like if the blast was going, to put your...
They did that, but for what reason, we don't know. They told us to put our head into the area of our armpit, you know, and just close your eyes, you know. And then there was a countdown.
Uh-huh.
For what? There was a countdown. And when that countdown reached, I imagine 0, that's when the blast, you know, and from that blast, it was as if you suddenly had Superman vision, because you can actually see the bones and everything in your arms and your hands, and you know, it was. I can't say that it was exciting to see that, you know, but you could see all the bones in your arms and your hands, you know, even with your eyes closed. You know, closing your eyes didn't mean anything.
Right. So that, oh my gosh. So what did it feel like? I mean, you know, I know that you were there. Was there any like, you know, like suction or wind or? Just explain it to us a little bit.
Well, I have been in an earthquake before, but this is more dramatic than an earthquake. The earth shook. The big dust balls came at you, you know, and the rush of the heat, the sand coming at you, almost sand blasting you, you know, taking the skin off you. And which it did to some people.
Oh,
know.
It did?
Yeah, blisters and everything else, you know. But you actually feel the heat and the pressure from the blast, you know, and the noise from the blast, you know.
So all of these soldiers were actually in full gear, just like if they were ready to go to battle.
Yeah, you're in full gear, but full gear at that time for that particular incident was your helmet and your rifle.
Right.
Back then, we had what's called M1 carbines, you know.
Right.
You know, not the new weaponry. but it was the M1 carbines, and without bullets, you know. But that's all you had, you know. So you weren't prepared really to go into warfare. You were there as a guinea pig to see what the results would be from being exposed to the after effects of atomic radiation. See, those things, that was important for them to know, because prior to having human beings there, they did the testing with mannequins.
Right.
So you don't get real results unless you test human beings to see how warfare will affect their bodies.
It was kind of like that Indiana Jones movie, where you saw the house and everything, and he was protected by cleaning out a refrigerator and getting thrown around all over the place because it was lead lined.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the only difference is they really cleaned them and scrubbed them down. I don't think you got the same treatment.
Yeah, we got that with a broom.
Really?
With a broom against one another. You know, I brush you, you brush me.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
When did you know, or when did you feel that there was something wrong with this whole scenario? At what point or what time? Or you just thought it was crazy from the very moment that you landed there?
Really, I don't think anyone really gave that any thought, because you went into it not knowing what you were going in there for. You had no idea. No one told you what the after effects of whatever that you were going in there for would be. So
Right.
even to the point of when it happened, you still had no idea what had just happened.
Right.
You know, there was no conversation about atomic bomb. There was no conversation about radiation. You know, that wasn't all that information was not given to you. You know, so you don't think anything about it until years later,
Right.
when you find out information about what had happened at a particular time in your life, you know, as it was related to your life, things that's happened to you medically.
Yeah, and I want to show a second documentary, and this was it's kind of something that was brought up with Department of Veterans Affairs. They kind of did it, and I would like for you just to take a look at it and see what you think about it. They're going to bring it up in a second, and then we'll do. We can do some comments on it, you know, when there's no audio in the still part of it.
Yeah.
And then we can listen to the rest of it. But I'm sure they're working on getting it up and running. Does it look like, this look anything like some...
Yeah, that's when we're actually walking toward what was called ground. Well, they are jumping in the trench.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And how far do you think you were? Oh, there's all the dust.
Oh, I can tell you exactly how far it's been stated that I was. You know, it was 2.8 miles, and it's not just the 2.8 miles, but the 2.8 miles that I was in the predetermined path of the fallout.
Okay.
It wasn't random. You know, it was actually, they figured that the fallout was going to come down this direct route that they had already predetermined that it was going to go. So you were lined up for injury.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have to get out of the trenches too, just like they were showing here?
Oh yeah.
And walk towards it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you can only go so far, you know, because they had Geiger counters.
Okay.
And, yeah. So you couldn't. It was reading so high that you really couldn't go further. But I understand from other people that did these type of things later on that they did go closer, you know. So the Geiger counter, you know, was deterrent as far as how close you could get.
Now, how long did they have you stay out there?
I don't really recall time-wise how long we stayed out there. You know, I never really got into the specifics of what had happened because it just wasn't on my mind to do it.
Well, it must have been like overwhelming. I mean, just being in front of that explosion going off. It must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, some people, it's funny. I've heard comments where people say, they talk about the beautiful colors of the blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make, the oranges and greens and whatever, I don't recall colors, I just recall the bomb.
Right, right. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what happened like afterwards? Did they take you in groups back to trucks to take you out of there, or what happened after the blast?
After the blast, that's when you come back to your barracks, and that's when they group you and tell you that what you have just seen did not happen.
Really?
And they also tell you that you are now sworn to secrecy. They didn't ask you whether you wanted to be sworn to secrecy. They just told you that you are being sworn to secrecy. And if you talk about it, you're threatened with a fine or imprisonment for X amount of years, a fine of X amount of dollars, So.
That must have opened some eyes up, basically.
Yeah. The comment I made to myself, and I remember this very distinctly, because I've always been a good reader, I used to read Time magazine, and the comment that I made to myself, and to someone else too, I said, they're telling us that we can't talk about this, but tomorrow, what we just did, is going to be in Time magazine.
Right, right.
Sure enough, it was.
It was in Time magazine.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't want you to talk about it.
Right, right. Now, after all that happened, did you stay like overnight and then you went back to your original duty station?
Yes, stay back, right, correct.
And pretty much you went back the same way that you came?
The same way, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, right. Well, I have a third video, and I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to show it before we go to halftime. If we do, they'll put it up on the board, and we'll watch it. That's the longer version of what happened, and we can talk through that too, because I want to kind of talk about your battle with everything that happened to you on the second half of the show. So hopefully we'll have enough time to do it now before we go to the break. But I know in the show that you did with me, like 3 weeks ago, we said the same thing. We talked about, we talked about, some of the things that were happening. You were making the comments, see the wind, and, see everything that was happening in it. The other thing I really wanted to ask you was, now you went in the same clothes to the barracks, and you went back to your duty station in the same clothes.
In the same clothes.
And I mean, they didn't even wash you. You didn't have a chance to take a shower, get rid of your clothes.
We were broom clean.
And that's it.
That's it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, when you went back to your duty station, did you get rid of the clothes, or you were required to hold on to it?
You don't be thinking about that, because you don't know what happened, and you don't know what the side effects are. You just, first off, you figure that Uncle Sam is not going to do anything to put you in harm's way deliberately.
Right.
You're always under that assumption.
Right.
You know there's risk in any army, in any war, but you don't think that they're going to deliberately put you in harm's way.
Especially in the United States. Yeah. Even though it's training, they're always looking. Even back then, it was always about safety.
But they put us in harm's way as a guinea pig to see what the results would be if there was nuclear war.
Right.
They wanted to see whether your eyeballs pop out or whatever,
Right.
They wanted to see. Now,
they didn't have anybody like doctors or anybody check you after the explosion?
No. I'm not saying that they weren't there, but no one checked anyone around me or myself. No.
But they did do the Geiger counters, right? Or they didn't even do that?
Yeah, they did that, yeah.
What'd they do? Just like go up and down and see how much was on you, or they just walk?
Oh no, okay. The Geiger counter wasn't done on the individual.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
The individual wore what one person out of the unit called the squad leader wore was called a dosimetry badge. That is to show how much radiation your body has been exposed to.
Yeah, it turns a color or something.
It supposedly turns a color, yeah. And so that was that. The Geiger counter that was to read the amount of radiation that was in the air, I imagine, or around whatever it did, you know.
Right.
But it wasn't a Geiger counter that they placed on you.
Right.
Yeah.
So they basically, the squad leader just walked around this area and just did the Geiger counter, or.
Yeah, by way of the dosimetry badge.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was not an accurate reading because supposedly each individual was supposed to have a dosimetry badge. But what the government did in this particular situation, they did what's called cohort, which means that one person out of a group is supposed to be reflective of the amount of radiation that everyone in the unit received.
Okay.
By that badge that this one individual was wearing.
I see.
Which I understand got lost in many cases, you know. So it wasn't true
Of what really was happening.
Right. The amount of radiation that was exposed to.
Right. Right. And the other thing too with what you went through, basically, were you kept apart from everybody else from talking about anything that happened?
No. Not kept apart, but you were already told that you can't talk about it, you know, on the threat of being in prison or fined. So it just really wasn't a big conversation. I don't recall coming back to the barracks with the guys that did not go there and even talking to them about it. I don't recall the conversation even coming up. You know,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah, I was just curious if. What about those that were there, you know, that were actually in the blast? Did they have any conversation or not really?
I did not. Yeah,
Okay.
I understand others may have, but I did not, yeah.
Right. Now, they did feed you, right,
course,
when
yeah,
you were
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And they had pretty good bedding, you know, place for you to sleep and
Yeah,
everything.
the same type of bedding that you would have at your base unit, you know,
Right,
which is a
right.
cot, you know, not the inner spring mattress, you know, that you have at home.
I heard it was made out of hay. No.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah.
That's really old.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, did you ever get rid of your uniform after you did get back to your station duty, or you just kept it and washed it?
You
or?
just don't think that there was any reason for you to have to do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because you don't really know what happened, what just happened to you.
Right.
You know,
right.
so there's no need to do that. You know, the broom was to sweep the dust off of you. Which was radioactive dust, so I've been told. You know, but as far as going back and washing them, they got clean when they got clean, like any other time that we could get clean. You know, so you can imagine that being mixed in with something else, you know, could be contaminated. Could have gotten contaminated.
Now, there wasn't any, while you were there, when you came back from the blast, there wasn't any reactions from anybody, you know, like medical reactions, or everybody seemed pretty well off, you know.
No, with myself, nothing manifested itself right away, and there were some guys who did have blisters on them. I don't know whether it's from the heat, from the blast, or from the dirt that was abrasive on their skin, or what, you know. But I didn't have anything that manifested itself right then.
Right. So, and were they allowed to go to see a medic or anything, or not really? The ones with the blisters.
I don't know.
Oh yeah. So you just kind of.
Yeah.
I would imagine they probably did, but anyways.
I don't think that they would do that because they were actually looking for what would happen to a person under those conditions. So I would think that they probably wouldn't want to see that person in a medical setting, you know.
Yeah, unless when they went back to their duty station, maybe.
Yeah.
Just to see what was happening.
Yeah.
Within that.
Because most of the things that happened to anyone there happens a period of time after the blast, after the exposure,
Right.
after
right.
it really sinks into you.
Right.
You know.
Well, I can imagine, even with the dusting off, you know, your respiratory system just sucking in that radioactive dust, and
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's funny, you know how some people smoke all their lives and never get lung cancer,
Yeah.
you know, and others get it from secondary smoke.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was all kinds of different reactions and things that happened from it.
There's some things that probably happen that you're not aware of because they will be thought of as being just a natural occurrence.
Right.
You know, if you died shortly after.
It's a natural cause. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a real quick break, and then I'd like to come back. I'd like to show you the third video because we didn't have enough time to show it, and then I'd like to go over your venture of you know, getting service connected and you know, fighting for what you thought was right. So thanks a lot, and thanks for coming on the show, and please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back for more Veteran Views of Connecticut. Thanks.
Valley Shore Community Television is constantly adapting to the demands of our viewers. Busy schedules are making it hard for viewers to watch shows when they air.
Television has changed dramatically. We don't have to be appointment viewers or listeners anymore.
No.
We can do this in real time.
VSC TV has made it easy to watch all our locally produced content online and when you want it. Visit vsctv.com and click on the Watch Online tab to watch live, or visit our local show playlist to easily navigate your favorite shows anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
This world is for free. Freedom from the waves of this.
VSC TV is your local Connecticut Mid-Shore Valley digital connection.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate, and it's worn like a badge of honor with good reason. Because it means love and devotion for one's country. Love. But what really makes up this country of ours? What is it we love? It's the people. Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? Because love has no labels.
Welcome back to Veteran Views of Connecticut. My guest today is Hank Bolden, who is the Atomic Veteran. I appreciate you coming on, Hank.
My pleasure.
It's quite a story on the first half that we had, and we were going to run a third video at the first half of the show, but I just kind of wanted to also say and ask you something. They also did this testing out on the water too, or in the islands, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Now, did you have any friends that you kept in touch with, or anybody that you knew that was there when you went to this testing? I'm just curious.
Well, the government had a keen way of making sure that you was not friends with anyone. And what I mean by that is how they selected individuals to be a participant in these different exercises. They didn't come to one unit and just take one whole unit and place them there. They went around the country selecting one guy from this unit on the east side, another guy from the west side, another guy from the middle, you know, so you didn't know one another.
Right.
So you're not really friends, you know, you're soldiers, and, you know, soldier buddies, but I don't recall knowing the name of not one of the guys that was
Really?
there.
So they didn't have like name tags or anything on there?
Well, you have name tags,
but it's hard to remember.
Yeah, well, you know, you really don't have time. You really don't have time to really get to be sociable with someone because everything's moving fast. You know, so there's no card playing time, no game playing time. You know, just meet and greet and that's it. You know, go to chow, eat. You know.
So how many total days were you actually there?
From the 18th to the 21st, 3 days. 3 days there, but 1 day in the testing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That quick.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a week-long journey or anything like that.
No.
Real quick turnaround.
Mine was not that long, you know. But there are others, you know, after that were for longer periods of time.
Right.
And there are other people that was permanent duty there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Those are the guys that I can imagine that they probably all are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
For something like that to happen. And then of course they had the ones out, you know, in the Pacific when they were doing the testing.
The Marshall Islands, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I want to show this last video and then we're going to kind of get into your fight with, you know, the government recognizing that you are an atomic veteran.
Exactly.
Because that was quite a fight from what we talked about.
Oh yeah.
So I would like to have some time to talk about that.
Sure.
So they're gonna show that, and we'll kind of talk through it. If you see something on the video, please say something because it's gonna be up there.
Yeah.
This is actual footage. And they pretty much trucked you out there. Or did you go on the bus, or did you go in a Jeep or a half-ton truck, or?
No, we went on feet.
On feet?
On feet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, on feet.
That's pretty amazing with those signs, you know? They really wanted you to keep it secret, whatever you were doing.
As far as anyone is concerned, it never happened.
Right. And then when they find out, you end up going to jail. And I see, you know, you weren't near any film crews or anything like that, like they're showing here.
No, I never seen anyone, you know, filming anything.
Uh-huh.
You know, so.
Now, were there different scattered units all around? Basically, was what it was.
There were more units than the unit that I was in. You know, there. You know.
Yeah,
but,
right.
The barracks that I was in, I think there was like about eight of us in that particular barracks. And there were, I recall there being about four different barracks, so there were every bit of 30 plus guys that was being exposed to the effects of the radiation bombs, you know.
Now, how did you know to jump into trenches? Was there like a siren or a whistle or something?
No, you were told to do that, yeah.
Oh, okay, your squad leader.
By the higher ups, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe, you know, like in some of the movies before the blast happens, they have like a siren go off or, you know, the number said, but I guess they didn't do that there.
Yeah, no, someone directing the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And pretty much, how long did you wait in a trench before anything happened? Do you remember, or was it a long time, or?
Well, they did the countdown. I don't recall from what number they started the countdown, you know, but that's as long as you stayed in there was from the time that they started the countdown to the bomb itself, you know. And the short time after the bomb, after all the deaths and everything is swirling around, you know, because you really can't see anything, you know.
Now, were you ordered to stand up when the bomb hit the ground? Because I noticed that a lot of them were standing up soon as...
Yeah, there were a lot of guys standing up, but I don't recall being ordered to stand up. The only order that I recall, that's the blast. That's the after effects of the dust and the earth shaking. The only orders that I recall is, as you said before, was the orders to put your arm up, you know, to cover your eyes. You know, that was the only order. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yep. See the colors there. Some guys was describing how the colors are so beautiful, not knowing what it was that they're describing there. You know, so. But it is colorful.
Yeah. It wasn't colorful for the people that didn't
you don't
make
think of it in that sense then. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how long, do you kind of remember how long that mushroom was, and then you guys kind of like stood around? And I mean, were you pretty much in awe seeing it?
Not at all in awe, just
amazed.
Well, not even amazed. You know, you're more thinking about what just happened. You know,
I see.
You know that the old WTF word, you know, what just happened?
Yeah, you're right, exactly. I hear you there. Us from the military definitely know what that is.
Yeah.
So quite the foobar.
Yeah.
So, now see, they're wearing all these are the guys that go out after the blast?
No, the troops themselves, we would call more observers than anything else. These guys do all the field work about monitoring and everything else, you know.
Oh my gosh, look at the tanks and everything, how they got pushed over.
That's one of the things that they're interested in seeing what would happen, and that's a lot of steel there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, a lot of steel, so you can imagine the blast. If the blast did that to the
I see them using the Geiger counter too.
Yeah.
And they're kind of wearing gloves and stuff, but I wouldn't say they're decontamination.
What is the gloves gonna do?
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was just kind of weird.
Yeah. And it's been stated that also that the government kept 2 sets of books.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As far as the numbers that they put down reflecting what the Geiger counters were reading.
I see.
How many more minutes left?
Wow, look at the dummies, how they've been burnt away
How many more minutes left?
from the blast.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And they also had a cattle there, sheep and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah,
too.
like animals and
yeah, instant barbecue.
Oh, I could imagine. Look how it blew apart vehicles.
How many more minutes left?
Yeah, they just wanted to see what. I see that they're showing the before, and then they show the after.
Yeah.
Like what happened to it and stuff, which is pretty amazing. That's a lot of steel there.
But when you see the dummies there, though, that's not really reflective as to what would happen to an actual human being.
Correct.
So they have to know how it would affect a human being in warfare, because the dummy's not going to fight.
Right,
The
exactly.
dummy's not going to get up and try to fight again, you know.
Right.
So you have to know what would happen to a human being. And really, when you look back at it, you know, it was, in a sense, necessary to do that for actual knowledge of what would happen.
Right.
But who wants to be that individual?
Right.
You know, so.
Well, like I said, I would, if it happened to material and not human beings, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But with human beings, it's not right.
Yeah.
And I mean, protective gear would have been a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
With sensors on you and how much you could take and what was going on the outside of you.
And I wonder how they would have known how much and what would be protective gear.
Right, right. And you would imagine that they would come up, they probably based what happened to human beings on how to build that protective gear. But that's just such a shame to do that, you know. That's
and
not.
The same
that's,
token, you put another load on a veteran when you're out there fighting, because you're already carrying a load on you, with you. So now you're gonna put a coat of armor on you. That's even more weight.
Well, welcome back. You just saw that documentary. Hank here actually went through that. And what we're going to talk about now is his fight to be recognized that he was there. As he was saying before, this was very secretive. Even when you were saying they actually had 2 sets of books on the radioactivity. Now, I know when I talked to you last, you were actually at a conference. I forgot the acronym for the conference.
Yeah, the NAAV, National Association of Atomic Veterans.
I see. And they had invited you to go there to be a speaker. But we're going to get to that, but tell us a little bit about the journey of you and your fight with the U.S. government to get what you wanted.
Well, the atomic blasting was a part of what's called the ASA, which stands for Atomic Secrecy Act. In other words, what you just seen did not happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and all records of it just was not available. And records, mention of your being there was not permitted to be placed on your records, on your records thereafter, such as your DD-214, which is your military discharge. So there was no mention of your being a participant in that type of activity. So, so after you get out and you find out that you have all kind of diseases and cancers and everything, and as a result of having been exposed to atomic radiation, you try to get medical care, and now you have to prove that you were even part of that. So you can't prove it because there aren't any records. And also to help the government, say that there aren't any records, fortunately for them, but unfortunately for you, the building that housed the medical records burned down. So, and that was in 1953 at the Records Repository in St. Louis, Missouri. So now you have to prove that you were a participant. Quite hard to do. It's like a catch-22, because they have what's called the burden of proof. You have to prove to the government that you was there. You would think it would be the other way around. The government would try to prove that you were or weren't there.
Right.
So they will send you a letter, and the letter that they sent me anyhow said that the fact that we cannot find records of your being there does not mean that you were not there, and also doesn't mean that you were there. So that's like a catch-22. I mean,
right.
So now, in order for you to get medical care and to be recognized as being an atomic veteran, you still have to prove to them that you received your medical damage, injuries by being exposed to atomic radiation. Difficult to do.
Right.
So, in my case, after being denied several times, being a participant, I had to devise a way of proving that I was there. So what the government will accept are buddy statements, which means that if you had a friend or someone that was there with you that you knew of, that they can attest to the fact that you were there or weren't there, or if you got letters from home at the same time that this thing was going on to prove that you were actually there receiving mail, or they will accept what's called lay statements. So I looked around and see what I could use as lay statements, and I found out, that lay statements would be like the letters, so I decided to look up doing a polygraph. So I looked up everything that I could find on polygraph, whether it was acceptable by the government and everything, and I found out that it was accepted by the government because the government hired polygraph examiners to teach the FBI, the CIA, and Homeland Security, and all these other guys. So if this polygraph examiner is good enough to be hired by the government to teach them, his word must be good enough.
Right.
Proof. So I vetted a lot of polygraph examiners to find the best that I could find, and the one that I found was the one who had a job of teaching the government people, the FBI and all these other entities, how to give a polygraph exam. And I took the polygraph exam and I passed the test to prove that I was there. And that's how then I had a lawyer that I presented it to, who presented to the federal government to prove that I was a participant, and that's how I won my case.
Right.
Proving that I was a participant there.
Right.
That I was not lying. High numbers, not lying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing how that.
It was a precedent.
Yeah.
Precedent setting.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how the National Records Archives lost that area of records, and it was only from a certain year to a certain year.
Yeah.
Now, why didn't the whole thing burn down?
That's a good question.
I've always wondered that.
Yeah.
Oh, are there like firewalls between this year and that year?
Yeah.
So it was always an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And who knows what other tests were in there, or other people, or what was happening. So I could just only imagine.
Yeah, well, imagine the people that did not go the route that I did to find out how to prove that you were there. Most people, and I say most veterans just gave up.
Yeah. Well, they give up today.
Yeah.
Like for the simplest things.
Yeah.
They give up. Never mind something that you undertook to do it. How long do you think you spent? How much effort to get where you are today?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years. 4
years. That's pretty amazing.
Highly anxiety-bearing years.
Right. Now, are you totally covered by the Department of Veterans Affairs?
100%.
100%.
100% permanent and total. And they can never come back at me again to make me prove anything further.
Yeah, because I know that we were talking about it earlier, that they were offering some atomic veterans $75,000 as a one payment, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's under the RECA Act. That's RECA, and that's called the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. And the veteran had the option of accepting the $75,000 one-time payment, and it's all over. Or you can take the long route like I did, and for forever compensation, So
right.
I did not want $75,000. You exhaust that in no time.
Well, the other thing too is your 100% can be
lifetime.
Right, but it can also be transferred to your wife. If you
yeah, and they're actually fighting that because your wife, if you die, your wife can. You have to have been collecting for a certain number of years for her to receive full compensation. Other than that, she gets partial compensation.
Right,
So they're trying to change that law from, I think, from 10 years to 5 years or whatever. There shouldn't be no years involved.
No, I agree with you 100%. And it shouldn't be that hard to get compensated. No. Especially if you were in the military.
Yeah.
And now, I'm a big advocate for that. I've always been a big advocate for it. Actually, at the VFW 1150 in New Haven, I'm the VSO there. So I'm always telling the younger vets, I says, don't give up. I says, even if you get 0% connected now, I says, you're young. I says, this is the time to have that, and then it could always be increased.
They are always going to deny you the first time out.
Oh, definitely.
They're always going to deny you.
Yeah, they're not going to accept it right away.
Yeah, that's to discourage you. But you have to be denied if you go to an outside attorney, you have to have at least been denied before an outside attorney can take you on.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
by law.
Right.
But you don't have to have been denied if you go to one of the service organizations.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. The only ones that they give 100% right off the bat are ones that have lost limbs.
Yeah.
Or have
Obvious, yeah.
traumatic, real traumatic stuff.
But then again, sometimes they make you prove that you were actually there.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
Yep.
So that's, like I said, that's pretty. How did it feel? Did you get any retroactive compensation when you?
3 years back.
Oh wow.
3 years back. Yeah.
Yeah. Besides being 100%.
But actually, it should have been back from the day that it happened, which is 1955.
Right.
Not from the time that you filed for it, and that's how the government is. From the date, they only pay you from the date that you filed a claim.
Correct.
So if something happened to you 50 years ago, and you just filed a claim today, you'd only get paid retroactively from today.
Right. Right. Exactly. Even if it's one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
But
unfair.
Yes. Yeah. And now, how's your journey now? Because I know that you went to this conference.
Mm-hmm.
You were a guest speaker at the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Are you now trying to help others maybe possibly get this? I've
said before, I have a pretty good life, even before all this happened. I was doing okay, before this happened. So it wasn't totally about the money. More money always helped, but I set out to be an advocate for other veterans
That's great.
to show them,
That's
how to do, what to do, not to give up.
Right.
That's a tough battle because even when you talk to them, a lot of them still give up.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to convince them because, and especially if they're in a financial situation, or they're in a, they're still dealing with things like PTSD or dealing with other emotional things that might be going on in their lives. They just don't want to be bothered with it.
Yeah.
They just want to go on with life with this chip on their shoulder against the government.
Yeah. The strange part is that when I tell people about particularly the retroactive part of it, is that they're concerned of the percentage of money that they have to pay the lawyer, but you're not really paying the lawyer because you're not putting any money up front, and he only get paid if you get paid. So why are you worried about the 20% that the government is going to allow the lawyer to take, when you didn't have that money to begin with?
Correct.
So why are you worrying about the 20% that the government allows them to take? Because the government do allow them to take no more than 20%.
Right.
Of your money,
Right, and it's only a one-time deal.
It's only a one-time deal.
Yeah, because there's been some people out there that have been telling veterans, they're going to take it every month.
No.
And that's not true.
No, they only take 20% of your retroactive, not your monthly compensation.
Right.
Nothing to do with your monthly compensation.
Now, if they don't have retroactive, then what do they do? They probably take something.
I haven't came across that bridge yet.
Yeah. I was just a question that I figured I'd ask,
Yeah.
I've never had to deal with a lawyer or anything else. Pretty much I've done it. I've always felt that it's not about as much as the money, but the principle.
Yeah.
The principle is, why should I have to hire a lawyer when I signed on a dotted line, ready to give my life to this country, to prove that something happened to me?
That's the worst part.
Yeah,
the denial.
Right.
And you know.
I know. And
you know you were there.
And that's what keeps me
that's
going.
The part that
that's
burns
what
you.
kept me going. So, but and the thing is that this is what I try to instill on a lot of the younger vets, the Iraqi and Afghan vets. I mean, I was the tail end of my 20 years, in the military. I was a Cold War vet,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, send this old man to Iraq and see what happens, So I felt like I was a test dummy when I was there. I was in the 5-ton trucks driving around, and they felt sorry for me, so they had me do other things. But really, in a sense, I was just trying to keep tabs on a lot of these youngins because they would go to sick call, and then of course they'd get on a bus and disappear for the rest of the day. So the first sergeant said, "Well, you need a babysitter." Oh, here we go. I got to be a babysitter now. So it was always a thing like that, But I really want to thank you for coming on to the show. It's just really been real super for me, and I kind of wanted to give you this. It's a challenge coin for you. It's a challenge coin that was given to me. Please hold on to it. Challenge coins are very cherished in a lot of the units because supposedly the first sergeant or sergeant major gave you a challenge coin. That day or that night, you could go to the bar, put the challenge coin on the bar, and everyone would get drinks for free. Wow. And he would pay for it. Yeah. So that doesn't mean I'm going to pay for drinks on free. But I just wanted to I wanted to give you that. Yeah. I just want to shake your hand.
Much appreciated. Yeah. Much appreciated.
I want to shake your hand. God bless you.
You too. And, you also.
And thank you for being an advocate for that. So that comes to the final chapter for this month. And I hope you're going to watch next month's show. And until then, see ya.